Very warm out there.
Very warm. Very, very, very warm.
Go outside.
I am Terri-Karelle. This is Redirection with me, your host for season 2 and 3. I know I might look a little bit different, but I got the same style, the same personality a little bit, but just the look. Don't watch that. Don't watch me, watch yourself.
Wow. You take me to really do the same thing. I did the same thing this morning.
How do I feel wrapping season 2? I feel relief, but I also feel pride. And I think it was a long haul. It was 19 episodes. So you can think of 19 weeks. And it wasn't just the one episode, which was visual, but there's also the audible version. And then in the week, we had 2 different videos that spoke to the priceless moment and then the definition of redirection. So it was just a lot of work and also, engaging audiences and keeping up with everything that was happening online. So there is relief because we do get a break. The production crew gets a break, but there's also pride because you set out your objectives, you have your targets, you know what you want the season to look and feel like. But when you actually execute it or maybe even surpass your own expectations, it's nothing but pride. And thank you to everyone who watched, listened, downloaded, left reviews, ratings. Like we couldn't have had such a successful season without you guys. Contrary to popular belief, because everyone thought that we were recording like every single week for 19 weeks. I recorded 19 episodes in 4 days, which is probably going to blow a lot of people's minds. When Alex and I looked at our schedule and we knew that this was a mammoth task, a mammoth project, not because of what it represented and the moving parts, but because of everything that happens outside of the project, from the events to the client meetings, the rehearsals, the run-throughs, the motherhood part, the pick-up, the drop-off, the extracurricular activities, the travel. When we looked at my schedule, it was absolutely ridiculous. And the question of, how are we going to do this if every other day you have something to do? And it was just kind of understanding that this was important to me. And I had 4 empty days on my calendar. And we said, we are going to schedule 19 episodes. And that's exactly what we did. So what you guys saw was a finished product. But if you can only imagine my day, our day, the production crew, Alex, everyone, we would have been here extremely early. And then we would have had to manage the time down to the T. I would finish one interview with one person, run into the bathroom, change my outfit, run back out to then welcome our next guest. And so we did that for 4 days. For 4 days straight. And then shortly after that, we got in the car, went to Montego Bay, did a job for 2 days, came back in, did a job on Friday, and then we were out of the island on Saturday for a 10-day stint between Puerto Rico and Grenada. And so we knew it was either do or die.
Anything to your heart, Zaya. You look beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Listen, homework, how's everything?
I'm tired.
I know. But only you be that tired and you still grin from ear to ear. And let people don't believe you.
I was just tired. I'm tired. I'm good tired.
Gotta get it closer for the girl's shoes, man.
I think people probably most likely underestimate the work. I think when you look on social media, people kind of say, a lot of DIYs, and there's nothing wrong with DIYs, but people give the impression a lot of times on social media that this is just easy, just fling up a mic and just boom bang and just talk 1 and 2 thing and just upload the thing. And for me, it came down to a lot of moving parts. Alex and I would have countless meetings as we came closer to the podcast, and I would create lists upon lists upon lists to ensure that we didn't miss anything from the food that was on set. And I want to thank DefCan. For persons who don't know, DefCan does more than just coffee as baristas, but their banana bread, their carrot cake, they make all kinds of things, sandwiches. It was just every single detail that we had to do because we're just a 2-man team. It literally is just Alex and I trying to cover things that you have some podcasts that have a team of 30, podcast teams that have teams of 20 and 10. And so it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of saying to each other, let's just push through, let's get this done, and afterwards we can stop and we can breathe. So I think, although it may come across as very easy and effortless and seamless and comfortable, no, it wasn't always that. It was challenging, and sometimes my motivation was not there. There were days that I missed my daughter and I was not able to do pickup or help her with homework, and those days can be harder than others, but you push through. And I think a lot of people underestimate the work that goes into any kind of production.
Boy, only company set, you know.
No, I don't
Boy,
care who
only
wants
company
scandal.
set.
Anyway, I want a pink cheese sandwich and I want a carrot cake. Since when I went to Toyota this morning to service my car, I didn't get to get the carrot cake, so I'm gonna have it right
What
here.
part of the crew are you, sir?
I'm technical.
Where's security?Alex.
I am
Alex.
best friend. I am
It's
everything.
DEFCON.
I didn't know.
I think the objective of my podcast was to create a space and to create conversations around everyday people. I think, one, we have a very weird relationship with failure. We have a very weird relationship with rejection. Nobody likes rejection. It's uncomfortable. It's disappointing. It hurts us. It hurts our esteem and our confidence. And so using my own experience of being rejected in a career that I wanted to pursue and having to redirect into media and communications, very unknown and unfamiliar territory, I figured I couldn't be the only one who was experiencing this or having these kinds of lived experiences. So for me, the objective of the podcast was to speak to everyday people who at some point in time had some rejection story or some redirection happening, and learning how they navigated. How did they overcome? How did they figure out how to still make something that could have been very harmful a defining moment to continue on? And it was important to have these conversations with people who look like everyday people, because I think sometimes if we interview people who've achieved a certain level of success, people disconnect, or they go, yeah, nice story, but you wouldn't know what I'm going through because you're all the way up there. So for me, it was, how do I find these amazing stories from the young, the old, persons with disabilities, and get them all in one space, sharing one common theme, which is redirection.
I pray that you will console Tamar even as she decides to share her story with others in prayer. I pray that there will be a calm over her, that there will be consolation, that there will be wisdom in everything that she says.
Season 1 was absolutely all audio, and the reason why we did that was season 1 actually started in my living room during COVID. A lot of us were locked in, locked down, and I realized that my community still wanted to connect, right? We still wanted to engage, we still wanted to learn and be inspired and motivated. And so me and my amateur self got my laptop, took my Zoom, started to invite people across the region. You know, most of them were of Caribbean descent, and I just started to ask questions. And what is very interesting about it is that I never expected Redirection with Terri-Karelle to even be as successful as it is, because I didn't have any plans. And I'll be very honest with you, I was driving down the road past a studio, I kid you not, and I turned into the parking lot. I parked my car, I went in and I said, do you guys do studio booking time? And they said, sure, when would you like to make an appointment? And I was like, would I be able to do it now? And they said, sure, we'll check the log. And so I walked into studio with absolutely no idea. Met the technician, sat down in the studio, recorded my first episode, came up with the name Redirection with Terri-Karelle right then and there. And if anyone who listens to the very first episode, they will listen to a 12-minute monologue, which is the reason why I started it. And then I did my interviews from my living room. So I think that's all Holy Spirit. I think I was led by the Holy Spirit, and I've just always been obedient. And so everything started in the audio format, but people started to ask me, when will we be able to see? We know that you're very animated. We like to see your facial expressions and how you engage with your guests. And so they said, you know, if I ever do another season, they would love to do visuals. And so I was happy that in season 2, they could still get the content, but they could also now see what was happening on set. So I hope everyone liked it.
So I am trying to be there. I have
So sign language played an important part of season 2, and I don't think people really understand how much. If I didn't get a chance to include the deaf community, I would not have done season 2. It was a non-negotiable. And I was willing, even when we were looking at sponsorship and how much it would be to fund the podcast based on how I wanted it to look, I was willing to now get rid of the nice to haves and only focus on the must-haves. And my must-have was that it had to have sign language interpretation, and we brought in Tony Aiken. And the reason being is, I've thought about all of the amazing interviews I've watched and I've listened to, the kind of advice, the tips, the nuggets, the gems that I've been able to glean from people. And then you kind of consider the fact that a lot of the content, or that content, does not come with closed captions, does not come with interpretation. So you have an entire community that would love to learn about the journeys of other people, but are just simply not facilitated. And so I said, if the objective of this podcast is to not just inspire or motivate, but to redefine and reframe how we view failure and how we view rejection, I think it was important for them to be a part of the conversation. And so not only did we have a sign language interpreter, but we even had a guest who was deaf. And I think it's important for everyone going forward to see how they can include as many communities as possible. So that was a non-negotiable for me for season 2.
It's always a pleasure being a part of Terri-Karelle's dream visions. As an interviewer last year, I think I went through the process. I thought that it would be meaningful to be a part of this project. Because I know that the stories that will be told will be stories that will benefit myriads of people. And not only the stories, but the part that it's inclusive, the fact that deaf people can actually watch and be informed. I think this is awesome, brilliant, and just like Terri, to be inclusive in everything that she does. So thank you to TK and thank you to the team. It's been wonderful being here with you guys.
Wow, how do I select guests? This was probably the number one question. So a lot of people always tell me that my gift is articulating and being eloquent, but my best gift, I think, is listening. And so even when I go to events, I'm sitting down, I'm listening to speakers, I'm listening to people in the audiences. People mention things just by chance, just randomly. And I snatch onto it, I hold onto it, and I go, that's intriguing, that's fascinating. I'd love to learn more about that person. And I'll give Alex, who is my executive liaison, the eye, or I'll send him a WhatsApp, and he already knows that is somebody who I would like to interview. And so a lot of the times it's just by listening. Sometimes it's going on LinkedIn and seeing stories that, people have shared and say, that sounds like a story that would interest my community. And then I just kind of reach out. So I really don't know many of the persons personally before I invite them on the show.
I would have just leave this book for you to gift it to somebody.
No.
But me sign it again for
Thank you. I want it for the me now.
Did she look beautiful? While she talking to hear this, I go so and I'm just like, look at her.
I do not conduct pre-interview, and for persons who are asking or not familiar with what that is, typically when a host invites persons or wants to interview persons, there's like a discovery call, if you will, pre-interview. They sit down, they carve out maybe 30 minutes to an hour to kind of ask questions to familiarize themselves so that when they sit down, they kind of know the questions that they really want to ask. I didn't do that. I don't do pre-interview questions. My guests won't get any questions simply because I don't start asking my questions until I'm actually on the set. And so what I am learning from my guests, I'm learning in the same time or at the same time that my viewers are learning. And as the story unfolds, that determines what questions I choose to ask. I know I'm given 1 hour, and so I try to ask whatever relevant questions I need to ask in that space of time.
This is the shot I wanted. But André gave it to my guest instead. Thanks, André.
I think I want people to look at each interviewee, to see themselves in that interviewee, to relate to the stories, to engage, to connect, but not just look at it as entertainment, but rather edutainment, where they can now apply the attitudes and the approach of my interviewees, and they can apply it to certain facets of their life where they deem necessary, that they will walk away not just inspired and motivated, but that they'll take action in reframing how they speak to themselves around failure and redirection. People always want to know if I use a script or a teleprompter. I did not use a script. I did not use a prompter for the production of season 2 of Redirection with Terri-Karelle. So what I would do is I would have the interview with the guests, because remember, I don't do pre-interview, so I don't even know how I want to introduce them as yet. So I would sit with my guests, we would have our conversation, I'd say thank you, they would leave the set, and then right then and there, I would turn to camera and then say, welcome back to another episode of Redirection with Terri-Karelle. And then based on the conversation we just had, I would create a blurb on the spot in my head, deliver to camera, cut on that. We usually got one take, and then I would run and change. And so nothing was scripted. Everything is out of my head, and that's why I have the most amazing production crew, commercial concepts, who understand the way I process things. They understand my flow, and it just worked out perfectly as a partnership.
How about I can't believe that Alex is actually still sitting down on this set. Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, hi, how is everyone doing? Thank you so very much for tuning in to another episode of Redirection with Terri-Karelle. And if you don't know who I am, well, that would be me, Terri-Karelle. It's a pleasure to meet you if you are new to the community. This podcast this season is brought to you by MasterCard as well as Heineken 00. Because even though we're going to have guests, they're speaking about their challenges and the obstacles and the hurdles, we're always going to look for the priceless moments, because we want to remind us that it's really the experiences that make life meaningful. And of course, with Heineken 00, we want to remind everyone that now you can. I'm really excited about the episode today, because this is a different format, different kind of guest. In fact, we will be speaking with Christoph Phillips, who will be the very first deaf graduate from the Edna Manley College for the Visual and Performing Arts School. And that's a big deal, considering society is still a little bit closed out and still does not realize the power that our deaf community has. And speaking of deaf community, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Toyota Jamaica for being the sponsor facilitating our sign language services. So you'll probably see Tony not just popping up in a bubble somewhere around my head. Tony will also be on set as our sign language interpreter. If you would like to find out more about me, you can find me across all social media platforms at Terri-Karelle, and you can also visit my website, Terri-Karelle.com. And if you know of anyone in your community who you believe deserves to be in the redirection seat, come on, let us know. Send us an email and we will follow up after then. Please be a part of the conversations. Use the hashtag TKRedirection. So as I said, I'm really excited about this particular episode, because we will have Christoph Phillips, deaf. We will also have Tony Aiken, who will be our sign language interpreter. So if you hear any moments of silence or any periods of lull, we're just giving Tony the opportunity to sign to Christoph and to give him the opportunity to respond. I cannot wait to have him in the redirection seat. Everybody was just so...
So I was wondering if the viewers would have pictured or would have picked up rather that I had a particular theme or pattern with my outfit selections. And it was, I think by the time I got to week 2 or week 3, everyone said, wait a second here. We realized that you're wearing a lot of black. So to answer your questions about my outfit choices, number 1, I did not put a budget for wardrobe. Therefore, everything that you saw me wear actually came from my own personal closet, my own wardrobe. Number 2, I absolutely love black and what it represents. I don't want to say, I love that is my favorite color, because we know it's not really a color. But for me, it is safe, it is secure, it is powerful, it is classy, it is timeless. But from a production standpoint as well, black is there to also blend in. It is not there to distract. And so what I wanted all of the attention and energy and effort to be really put to my guests, So I didn't want every week people to talk about the outfits and the vibrancy and the colors, but rather really paying attention to my guests. And so it was there to just anchor the space, to be present, but to not take away or detract from my guests. So that's the reason why I wore a lot of black. Oh yeah. So everyone who knows me, knows my brand, knows that I partner and I associate and I collaborate based on alignment. And even when it went to looking for sponsors, it was like, who could I reach out to that could find benefit and alignment with this, but also an entity that aligns with me. And before I even speak about that, let me also hasten to say that I got no's. There are prospective sponsors who I reached out to who said no, they couldn't sponsor. So I received rejection even as I was pitching this podcast. And I think it's important for people to know, because people assume that once you get to a certain level, everything becomes easy. There were sponsors who said no, and there were some entities that never even responded in email. Even after we followed up, they were just zero, cricket. And I hope that this is an example to people that you're going to get no's from people. Don't take it personally, because people have their reasons why they said no. But it doesn't mean that it should deter you. And it doesn't mean that there aren't people who would love to partner with you. And so, I looked at the stories and I thought, MasterCard, priceless moments, these experiences that are priceless. Heineken 00, they're always talking about, now you can, the now you can moment. Commercial Concepts, they have been with me forever, from the launch of my book to everything that I have done in video form and editing format. Commercial Concepts has been there. So it was only a no-brainer that they would take on this particular project for me. Toyota Jamaica believes in mobility for all. That is a mantra that they hold true year after year. So who better to sponsor the sign language interpretation but them? And then we had Brescia, Go Shore Couriers, MDS, Beauty Brands by MDS, that kind of came in and helped to supplement and complement our swag bags. And naturally, the biggest standout, I think, this year was the fact that season 2 was actually on a set. And I did not want my set to be sterile. I wanted my set to feel like home and look like home. My home tends to have a lot of artwork. It's very vibrant. And so Spaces came on and just completely created this space with books and art. And every guest who came on the set said it felt so comfortable and inviting. And the viewers loved it as well. And so Spaces just came in and owned that sponsorship collaboration. And I could not have asked for a better, more aligned partnership. And so there's an intimacy and there was a reason and an intention behind every single brand that worked on this particular podcast. And I could not have asked for a better collaboration.
Some goodie.
The book!
Yes!
Hallelujah!
So you get a lot of things from, local brands. For myself, we have beauty brands here. Zero. Same great taste, it is zero alcohol, and we have beauty brands. I don't know if you may keep it for yourself or your wife. What do you want to tell?
So something that I learned, because every time I create, or I should say every time I ideate and create and execute, there are always things to learn. And for persons who might be aspiring to be podcasters, I think number one, you have to ask yourself, who do you want to serve? What does your community look like? What is it, or what kind of content do you want to create specifically for a particular kind of community? So I am not here to serve everyone, and my podcast may not appeal to everyone, and that's okay. I think you also have to have a good idea of what that title is. What does it represent? Will people automatically understand what the title hopes to portray, or is it that they have to listen or watch in order to be like, so I think if you can come up with clarity what the title is, then of course it naturally filters out the persons who you want to listen to your podcast. Number 3, be patient with yourself. You might post your podcast or your first episode and you may have 2 people listening. You may have 3 people listening. I think it's important for you to be patient and not expect everything to go viral, but to be consistent with the kind of content, the quality content, and the quality of guests. Number 4, you may try something. Always look at your insights. That's something that I did. I looked at the themes that most of the community definitely loved. And so going into season 3, it gives me some more information. I'm armed with more information to see how I can tap into the themes that really stood out. Like mental health was a huge one that stood out. Men being able to talk about issues and not being ashamed or not jeopardizing or compromising their masculinity. Huge theme. And I think last but not least, you kind of have to be in it for the long haul. If you're going to be doing podcasting because you're just looking for a quick buzz or a quick viral thing, then you might be in for a rude awakening. But I think if you are in it for the long haul, you will see eventually it taking flight and ending up in spaces and people sharing it according to how they watch or listen. And if people give you feedback, lastly, don't take it personally. The best thing you could ask for is feedback. When people give you feedback, it's because they care. So if they say, hey, your audio, or hey, the lighting, or hey, couldn't you try to do this? Write it down, take note, and continue to improve. Even if you think you're doing the best job ever, there's always room for improvement. I understand that as we continue to create more content, for some people their content is entertainment, for some it's supposed to be educational, it's informative. I think you can create content that does all of that, but something that's really important to me is having a social arm. So it's one thing for my viewers to walk away saying, wow, I'm inspired by this person, or this person's story resonated with me. Now I am empowered or inspired or motivated to do this, that's fine. But before we started the project, I had said to Alex, I said, I want to pledge $150,000 from my own kitty, and I want to give it to a charity of my choice. But this will be coming from my TK tribe. It's really a representation of support of a community. And Heineken 00, who was one of our associate sponsors, decided to match it. And so this year, under the Redirection with Terri-Karelle Podcast umbrella, we were able to donate $300,000 to E for Life, which for many of you is a charity, it's an NGO that offers rehabilitation, nourishment, reintegration into schools, family counseling for girls and women who have not only been raped, but have been given HIV and have also been impregnated. In the process, many of them, their whole lives have kind of come to a standstill, and E for Life kind of comes in and helps them in the different areas and facets that they need it. And so for season 2, we were able to make that donation of $300,000 to the charity. And that is because you guys supported the podcast. And because of that support, we threw support behind a charity that needed it. And each year we would choose a different charity to benefit.
This full check,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The real one is gonna come
Yeah.
of just $300,000, which we know is certainly not enough to do all the things you want to, but you guys will know where this can be or what this can be used for. Proud of you.
Yeah.
So we hit 100,000 downloads, which was a huge milestone, especially considering that I'm still a very new podcaster. This is my second season. And again, a very small team, but it feels really good. And I'll tell you why. It was never my objective to go out and get a certain number of downloads. It wasn't my objective to be viral in any way, shape, or form. But it feels good to know that the content resonated. Now, considering persons from 107 countries listened to my podcast and it registered on the Apple Podcast ranking list, I am grateful. I think the strategies going forward will be, if you found your formula, stick to it. I'm going to stick in the vein of redirection. I'm going to stick to the vein of reframing how we speak to ourselves and how we take on challenges. I'm going to stick to the idea of having guests that are everyday people, who look like everyday people, who are at different phases and stages of their lives. And I will continue to look at themes that maybe we do not discuss or explore as much as we should as a Caribbean people. And hopefully, it will get to the point where I can now fly my guests in, that I will find amazing people in the diaspora, amazing people who represent Caribbean people, the spirit of resilience. And where I see it is that if I see somebody who is wherever in the world and I want to get them on my set, that I won't have to Zoom, but I will have an airline sponsor and a hotel sponsor who will bring them in. I know Toyota will already transport them from the airport, but it is to get people in, so it's not just Jamaicans, but just all of us connected. I think that is my ultimate goal for the podcast.
I hate y'all. Like, I really do. I really do.
You're welcome. Congrats. Good job.
This is redirection.
Thank you.
I know.
I was just like, where's Alex going with the bag? Oh gosh, thank you. This means a lot.
So that's really the gift from the team, but I have somewhat a personal.
Oh gosh. And here it is, I'm just like, hey, Alex and I don't get anything, so now it's just really Alex has it.
There was something I wanted to get you, and this was more personal. So this one was from me. Oh, you're taking.
And you have me in these ugly blue flip-flops.
Nobody's seen your face.
This one is from me.
This is from La Chandler. Oh, Alex. And it's a dancer. Oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah, I know it was a rough week.
Don't want anybody to get emotional. Oh, I couldn't have done it without you. I could not have pulled this off without you.
I saw it and I was like, gorgeous.
Oh my goodness, thank you. So very thoughtful. I couldn't have done it without you.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness.
All right, that's it. Mm-hmm.
I can't just stop giving me gifts. I told you no.
So finally, I just want to say thank you. Alex Sterling, you have been exceptional. A lot of persons don't get to always see you, except for when I post you on Instagram. But a lot of people don't get to see the work that you do behind the camera, your attention to detail, you always understanding the high standard that I have for myself. That I really do care about everyone who's a part of the process, not just the guests who come on, not just the viewers, but everyone who is a part of the redirection team, right? From the sponsors and the partners to my production crew, everyone gave up themselves, and I just did not want to say thank you, look at me, it's all about me, because really and truly I could not have done this without an impeccable team. And I think it just goes to show, and it reminds me that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, it's never about quantity. Never. It's always about the quality of the people who you manage to cross paths with and how you guys can all help each other. And so to Alex Sterling, to André Rattigan, the Concepts team, MasterCard, Heineken 00, Spaces, Toyota Jamaica, Beauty Brands by MDS, to Go Show Couriers and Brescia. Thank you so very much for trusting me with your brands and allowing me to come back with season 2 even bigger and better. And if anybody message me about when season 3 come in, I'm going to block. Oh no, Alex and I are going on a break. Goodbye.